originally released in 1994 in Japan and 1995 in North America and Europe. We have Battle Arena Toshinden Remix. And this is the Sega Saturn port of the original Sony PS1 game Battle Arena Toshinden. Let's pop it in the old Saturn and see what we got here. Alright, so this is Battle Arena Toshinden Remix, the Sega Saturn version of Battle Arena Toshinden. And if you're not familiar with the series, if it is a series, I'm not even sure if it's a series. Let me go look that up real quick. Just checking really quickly through Wikipedia. Battle Arena Toshinden. Ah, yeah. Okay, yes, it was a series. Sorry about that.
Anytime, anywhere.
So if you are unfamiliar with the series, like myself, then let me give you the brief rundown. It's basically the predecessor to games like Soul Edge and Soul Blade and Soul Calibur. That whole series. Battle Arena Toshinden came out first and kind of paved the way for 3D polygonal fighting with weapons. And boy, does this game have polygons. Big, beautiful, blocky polygons. And not much else. At least in my opinion. Now, I have yet to play the PS1 version of this game, and I suspect it may play significantly differently than this one. Because in the Sega Saturn version, it almost feels like your character is moving underwater or through some type of fluid or dense gas, because everything just moves extremely slow, and it almost feels like there's added weight to your character. Like they can't get out of their own way, almost. And as you play the game, you'll find yourself trying different button combinations with the D-pad and the various buttons you use throughout this game. And you're just moving at the speed of light compared to how your character's reacting. You almost have to like significantly slow down your button inputs, much like Ultra Vortec for the Atari Jaguar.
Fire wave.
So while I'm at it, let me give you the general breakdown of how to play the game. You use the D-pad on the Sega Saturn controller to move your character around, but they only move in a two-dimensional fighting game perspective aspect with the D-pad. You have to use the left and right trigger buttons, or shoulder buttons, or whatever you want to call them, to move in a third dimension. And you don't have full control over that. You just tap the button and you kind of do a roll jump a couple of degrees in that direction, and that just shifts the playing field slightly. And the only function that really serves is to help you dodge an enemy attack. It doesn't really open up a world of 3D fighting like you'd see in a modern 3D fighting game. And that about covers how you move your character around. You also use the various buttons on the Sega Saturn controller, the A, B, C, X, Y, and Z buttons for different types of attacks. And that's about it. Right out of the box, Battle Arena Toshinden allows you to play 8 initial characters, and you have the ability to unlock 3 other characters later on in the game. Each version of the game, whether you're playing on the PC, the Sega Saturn, or the Game Boy, this was released on the Game Boy, have an additional unique character you can unlock. Aside from the usual 1-player and 2-player versus modes and arcade-style gameplay, there's also a story mode. And the story mode wasn't too bad. It was rendered in a unique kind of anime style and made it visually interesting to watch. Incidentally, the Sega Saturn is plagued with somewhat long loading times, in case you haven't noticed. So now the real question, is Battle Arena Toshinden Remix worth buying for the Sega Saturn? And my vote is absolutely not. This game I came across because it was thrown in with a big pile of Sega Saturn games. I didn't know much about the series. I had heard of it, but hadn't really played it too much back in the day. In fact, by not too much I mean not at all. But I was aware of the series in some ancillary way, so I was kind of curious to see what it was about. And while it is a predecessor to games like Soul Blade and Soul Calibur, it is no Soul Blade or Soul Calibur, at least the Sega Saturn version. But I'm curious to see how the PS1 version stacks up. I'm Dommy from Classic Games Revisited. Until next time.
激しくいくぜ